The Middle East is ablaze, and the world holds its breath. A storm of missiles, fiery declarations, and vows of vengeance has descended upon the region, where Israel and Iran clash in a military escalation of terrifying intensity. On June 15, 2025, sirens wail in Tel Aviv, buildings collapse in Tehran, and global markets tremble under the shock of a conflict threatening to engulf everything: regional stability, the world economy, and perhaps even global peace. Images of rubble, grieving families, and skies streaked with explosions reach us like fragments of a waking nightmare. At the heart of this turmoil, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wields the sword of all-out war, while Iran, wounded but defiant, promises to open the gates of hell. And amidst this chaos, an unlikely voice, Donald Trump, swings between apocalyptic threats and promises of a miraculous deal. This is a human tragedy, a geopolitical thriller, a ticking economic bomb, and we are all spectators, powerless, watching a drama that could reshape the world. Hey, it's Carlos. I hope you're doing great. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to stay updated on all the latest economic and political news in just a few minutes a day. It all began on Friday morning when Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a military offensive of staggering audacity. In a matter of hours, precise airstrikes decapitated Iran's military leadership, wiping out its top commanders. Nuclear sites, central to Tehran's controversial ambitions, were hit, their facilities reduced to smoldering heaps of concrete. In an interview with Fox News on Sunday, June 15th, Benjamin Netanyahu minced no words. Iran poses an existential threat to Israel and the world. We cannot allow the most dangerous regime to possess the most dangerous weapons, he declared, his gaze steely. The official goal: dismantle Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, but Netanyahu went further, hinting that regime change in Tehran could be a byproduct, perhaps even an unspoken aim. The Iranian regime is very weak, he slipped in, as if inviting Iranians to rise against their clerical rulers. These words are not trivial. They resonate as a challenge, a provocation, a risky bet on the future of a nation of 90 million people. Iran, for its part, has no intention of backing down. Authorities report 138 deaths since the Israeli strikes began, including 60 on Saturday alone, when a missile obliterated a 14-story apartment block in Tehran, burying entire families, including children. The pain is immense, the anger palpable. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi accuses Israel of sabotaging nuclear talks scheduled in Oman, pointing the finger at the United States as complicit. Tehran cancels these negotiations, slams the door on dialogue, and vows a retaliation that will make its enemies tremble. In the night from Saturday to Sunday, Iranian missiles rained down on Israel, sowing death and destruction. In Bat Yam, near Tel Aviv, a residential building is pulverized, killing 10 and leaving 35 missing under the rubble. In Tamra, in the north, 4 women, including a mother and her 2 daughters, perish. In total, 13 Israelis are killed, over 350 injured. Sirens blare in Jerusalem and Haifa, sending 1 million people scrambling into bomb shelters, hearts pounding. But this conflict is not just about missiles and ruins, it's also a battleground of economics, diplomacy, and strategy. Global markets, already fragile, are suffocating under the pressure. Oil prices skyrocket, surging 7% on Friday and 9% overall, after Israeli strikes targeted Iran's energy infrastructure for the first time. The Shahran oil depot near Tehran is in flames. At South Pars, the world's largest gas field, production is partially halted after a strike sparked fire. These images of flames devouring facilities vital to Iran's economy and global energy supplies raise fears of a major oil crisis. The Seaboy Volatility Index, dubbed Wall Street's fear gauge, spikes to 20.82, its highest in 3 weeks. The S&P 500, after a 20% rally since April, stalls, unable to digest the uncertainty. Sami Char, chief economist at Lombard Odier, tries to reassure. For now, the conflict remains a controlled confrontation, but he admits the risk of escalation is real and no one can predict where this spiral will end. To grasp the full scope of the crisis, let's look beyond Reuters' dispatches. Al Jazeera, reporting from Doha, says Iran has put its forces on high alert, frantically protecting strategic sites. The outlet notes the arrest of 2 alleged Mossad agents in Iran, a sign of growing paranoia in Tehran. The BBC highlights a critical detail. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, declared on Thursday that Iran was breaching its obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. This bolsters Israel's claims that Tehran is pursuing a nuclear bomb, though Iran insists its program is peaceful. Ironically, Israel, which never signed the NPT and is widely believed to possess nuclear weapons, positions itself as a guardian of non-proliferation. On X, analysts note that Iran's traditional proxies, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, are weakened after years of conflict limiting Tehran's options, but a new player emerges. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis claim ballistic missile attacks on Jaffa, near Tel Aviv. It's the first time an Iranian ally has directly joined the fray, a troubling sign that the conflict could spread to other fronts. And then there's the United States, whose ambiguous stance fuels tensions. Donald Trump, true to form, blows hot and cold. On Truth Social, he threatens Iran with a military response of strength and might never seen before if it dares target American interests. Yet in the same breath, he claims a deal is possible, that the conflict could easily end if Iran accepts stringent nuclear restrictions. These statements, both belligerent and conciliatory, leave observers puzzled. Netanyahu, asked about rumors that Trump vetoed an Israeli plan to assassinate Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, dodges. "I'm not going to get into that." But he confirms he informed Trump before Friday's offensive and reveals that American pilots are shooting down Iranian drones targeting Israel. Washington denies direct involvement, but this tacit cooperation blurs the lines. Iran, convinced of US support for Israel, sees red and the prospect of dialogue fades. The consequences of this conflict are dizzying, rippling across the globe. Regionally, daily life is paralyzed. Israel's El Al Airlines cancels all flights to Europe, Tokyo and Moscow until June 23rd, with Israeli airspace closed. The National Security Council warns citizens against traveling through Egypt or Jordan, deemed high-risk zones. In Tehran, authorities urge residents near military facilities to evacuate, while in Tel Aviv, rescue teams comb rubble with sniffer dogs, searching for survivors. The toll is chilling: 138 dead in Iran, half of them children, 13 dead in Israel, over 350 injured. Each life lost is a tragedy, each shattered family a reminder of war's absurdity. Economically, the world is on edge. The oil price surge threatens inflation, already stoked by Trump's trade tariffs. Investors, nervous, flock to gold and the dollar, which regains its safe haven status. Regional markets quiver. Tel Aviv stocks dip before stabilizing, while Saudi Arabia's TASI index falls 1.5%. Analysts fear prolonged disruptions to Iran's oil supply, potentially offset by other producers but not indefinitely, could derail the fragile global economic recovery. Sami Char insists central banks seasoned in crisis navigation won't panic, but how long can they ignore a barrel flirting with 6-month highs? Diplomatically, the crisis overshadows the G7 summit, which opened this Sunday in Kananaskis, Alberta. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, before flying to Canada, sets the tone: prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, uphold Israel's right to self-defense, avoid escalation, and pave the way for diplomacy. But G7 unity is fragile, strained by Donald Trump's presence, whose past summits have been disruptive. In 2018, he stormed out of a Canadian G7, calling then-host Justin Trudeau weak and dishonest. This time, Prime Minister Mark Carney plays it safe, opting for chair summaries over a joint communiqué to contain outbursts. The summit, hosting leaders from Ukraine, Mexico and India, must also tackle US tariffs, the Ukraine war, and critical mineral supply chains. But the Middle East dominates, each delegation aware that a misstep could ignite the region. And yet, amidst this turmoil, life goes on elsewhere, as if defying the absurd. In Rome, Italy appoints Gennaro Gattuso, a football legend, as its national team coach, hoping to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. The contrast between sports triviality and war's gravity is almost surreal. But it speaks to humanity. Even in the darkest moments, we strive to build, dream, move forward. What to make of this chaos? The Israel-Iran conflict is a precipice where nuclear ambitions, ancient rivalries, and political calculations collide. Netanyahu bets on brute force to neutralize Iran, but risks setting ablaze an already volatile region. Tehran, cornered, might opt for a reckless escalation, rallying its remaining allies for a proxy war. Trump, an unlikely tightrope walker, juggles war and peace, but his talk of a miracle deal rings hollow against the intransigence of both sides. The G7, a symbol of a faltering world order, tries to steer the ship, but can it prevail against such explosive dynamics? The markets don't lie. They reflect a world bracing for the worst. On this June 15, 2025, we stand at a crossroads. Every missile, every statement, every silence brings us closer to or further from catastrophe. The faces of the victims in Bat Yam in Tehran remind us of the human cost of these power games. Diplomacy, fragile as it is, remains the only hope, but for it to prevail, it will take courage, restraint, and a will for dialogue that neither Israel, Iran, nor their allies seem ready to offer. So we wait, hearts heavy, hoping reason will triumph over fury. For in this inferno, the future of millions of lives and perhaps the entire world is at stake.